Hey guys, it's Steven here, back with another video. And today I thought I'd do a little bit of a Q&A for those people who are on the second tier and like second tier upwards on Patreon and the YouTube members over on the Slack group. Basically, if you're involved in a certain tier on Patreon, you get essentially access to a Q&A once a month, which I'm going to try and start doing more regularly. And these questions are for people over on the Slack group who put some questions in about kind of anything I asked them. So I thought I'd do that today, and the preview will be coming up later on. So I'm going to jump into it and say thank you to these people who submitted the questions. And thank you to everyone who supports the channel on patreon.com/Esteemed Kompany or who is a member on my channel. I appreciate you all absolutely loads. I'm going to start with this question from Andre, who's over in New York. He said, do you think that City lacked the passion required for the derby? Follow up, but do you think putting a lifelong City fan like Foden in at, say, the 60th minute might have changed the way the game was? I'm not necessarily sure we lacked the passion. I mean, you could say the same about Man United, and at the same time, I think in general, the edge of football has slightly disappeared at the moment, probably because of, I guess, COVID and life and no fans in the stadium. So it wasn't a normal derby. Of course it wasn't. I wouldn't say the passion wasn't there, but I'd say the edge probably wasn't there. They are still professional footballers, but they're also still humans, you know. They do need that emotional resonance that that the fan aspect will bring, you know. They need to hear that because that is literally why they play football, for the energy, for that impulse. And of course they did a job kind of professionally. But I think it's probably fair to say the game lacked a natural bit of edge. I mean, maybe it might have helped if someone like Foden came on. Personally, I would have brought Foden on. I think we all would have brought Foden on because a guy who gets it, who wants to make a name for himself, could have brought a little bit of spark. But maybe that's what Guardiola is fearing. I think it's probably fair to say at the moment, Guardiola, when things don't go well for people who like control, I think they try and control things even more, which can be a bit of a spiral of negativity potentially. But I think we're seeing Guardiola at the moment absolutely terrified about the idea of things not being perfectly smooth and out of control. So we've heard him mention a few times now he's not made changes because he doesn't want to change the shape of things. And that to me is just fear that things may go wrong. So I think this has happened because of things like the Lyon game. So he's trying to control things more by trying to control things in a micromanagement kind of way, which I think actually probably is affecting things a little bit more. So I think he was probably nervous about the idea of Foden coming on and showing all the energy and desire, but potentially being a little bit too reckless and giving the ball away. United countering. United are obviously great at counter-attacking and then conceding basically and losing the game. So even though it may have helped, and I do think fortune favours the bold and all that, I reckon that's what was going on with Guardiola there personally. Big love to Andre. Next question is from Nathan Mullaney. He said, general thoughts on Brahim Diaz after he left us. He's at AC Milan now, isn't he? How's he doing over AC Milan? I think he's doing okay, occasionally starting some games. But my general thoughts is that I don't think he's ever going to make it to the very top because I feel like when we City signed him, and trust me, let me see how he's getting on. When City signed him, I had an awful lot of time for this kid, and I still do. I think he's a fantastically gifted footballer. But obviously we signed him as a 14-year-old. He's made 17 appearances this year, so he's playing pretty regular for AC Milan, which is pretty good. And AC, to be honest, are doing, I think what I can remember, AC and Milan are doing pretty good. Where are they in the league? They're currently top of the league, so he's currently playing relatively regularly for a team top of the league, even if he's just kind of like a rotation player. But in terms of Brahim, I felt like when he came to Manchester City, he was small, young of course, but ultra talented. And I think City were hoping for him to grow a little bit, or maybe just get a little bit faster. I think the problem he's got is that he's a little bit too small and fast, but not fast enough. He's like 5'5", so he's like a good 2-3 inches shorter than the likes of David Silva and Aguero, who are already small anyway. And I think what I've seen from him, when I've watched clips of him at AC Milan, and I saw the same at Real Madrid, he's clearly very talented. But if you slightly lean on him, because he's like if you try and lean on Aguero, you're gonna get like the top of his head or something like that. Sorry, you're gonna get the small of his back because he's small, but a little bit higher. If you're a little bit taller, you're going to lean on him. You're going to be a little bit higher. And players are leaning on Brahim's shoulders because he's small. So he goes down an awful lot because of his height, unfortunately. So you watch him play, and he's on the floor every single time he goes on a run because he just can't withhold the physical pressure. Now, the reason I mentioned his pace, if he was a little bit faster, he'd get away from them. He's fast, but he isn't like as fast as Messi was when he was breaking through. Even though Messi was small and slight, they were still taller, actually, than Brahim. He was still faster. Likewise, Aguero was. So he could get away. So Brahim is doing okay. He's going to have a good career, but I don't think he'll reach the levels that he could have. Unfortunately, I think it's just down to his size, honestly. He tries to do a little bit too much still. And I think that comes from feeling like he's not involved in the games because he's pushed off the ball too much, unfortunately. Could be wrong there, though. Next question, Jameson Tanner. It seems like a lack of crowds has affected some clubs more than others. Do you think it is making it harder for City players to break out of a training mentality, not just with the fans at the Etihad, but also in terms of sharks smelling blood in the water when we score away and hear the home crowd react when we're the away team? 100% that's the thing that's going to affect games. I think there's absolutely no doubt. If you look around Europe at the moment, more teams are winning games that don't usually, and more teams are losing games that don't usually as well. So basically, the bigger clubs and the smaller clubs are more likely to beat each other at the moment, or at least take points off each other. And that's 100% a general thing across Europe. I mean, like Spurs were top of the league with 7 games, 1 out of 12, and whereas last season Liverpool had 11 out of 12. 7 out of 12 is low, even for like an unusual standard. Obviously, Liverpool set a ridiculous standard last season, like we have done before, but 7 out of 12 is still pretty low, even by the old standards. So, I think in general, it has been a little bit of a leveller. Maybe City's football is so methodical in general. Obviously, it's so composed and so it's like clockwork that it probably needs a little bit of energy from the crowd, every now and then to kind of get it going. Potentially. I could be talking bullshit. It might not be a case, but maybe that is a factor, Obviously, it affects everyone equally. But yeah, maybe they're very much, they need the natural energy and spark from the fans. And you probably got a point about the whole negativity in terms of the Sharks smelling blood, because you're that nervous further from the crowds after you see the goal does feed into the opposition players, which will then see them sit deeper, which will then see Manchester City push forward. So there could be an element. Having said that, it's very much on ourselves, though, to motivate as Manchester City. I say ourselves as if I'm Manchester City, but you know what I mean. So even though it's a factor, I think we just have to kind of get on and crack on, unfortunately, mate, because it's the same for everyone else. Although it isn't anymore, admittedly. Robert King saying, what's happened to City's goals this season? Does that have anything to do with some formation changes, or are wingers playing more narrow this season? How long's a piece of string, mate? As ever with things in general, there's a myriad of factors that usually are the root causes of these kind of things. The probably biggest factor for me is probably David Silva no longer being a Manchester City player. I mean, David Silva was the fulcrum of our creativity, the one who moved the ball around so mesmerically, and he's still doing. And even though his legs went a bit last year, he was still. I think we're realising just how good he was, by the way, because his link-up play and his direction, his understanding when to release the ball and when to turn around and just where to find space. I mean, football is not just about what you do with the ball, it's what you do off the ball. And we don't appreciate that enough, maybe because we're not trained eyes, we're just fans who watch it casually. But David Silva, the way he'd find pockets of space, which would then free up space for people like Kevin De Bruyne, absolutely mesmeric, and it's very hard to do what he does. Bernardo Silva can't do it. Phil Foden can't do it. Maybe one day they can, but they certainly can't do it right now. Gundogan's the closest, but nowhere near the level of David Silva. Other than that, yeah, we obviously were, as a result of no David Silva, and because of the goals conceded last season, we're obviously now playing usually a double pivot, which means one less man further forward, which means it's easier to mark Kevin De Bruyne potentially. Obviously our wingers are out of form as well a little bit. Our pace has dropped off. Obviously, the tighter fixture schedule means players can't press as much, because if they do, they get injured. There's less actual pressing going across Europe right now. That's an actual stat that someone told me the other day and showed me. But teams aren't pressing as much across Europe right now because if you do, you get shitloads of injuries. Look over at Liverpool. They get shitloads of injuries, and obviously City trying to avoid that. So it's loads of factors, mate. And also, of course, our strikers. Aguero has just been non-existent this season due to injuries, and Gabriel Jesus has hit one of those patches in front of goal where he can't score. Likewise, Raheem Sterling. So unfortunately, loads of factors. Some more important than others, but all resulting in the same shit scenario. Next question is from Mohamed Muse. Is Pep's sense of security / pragmatic approach a consequence of the Lyon game? And is that the main reason that the goals are dried up? Also, why does he keep playing players who are out of form? Well, I think we talked about in the previous question why the goals are dried up. Combination of maybe David Silva playing a more defensive system, players out of form, unfortunately, no Aguero. I guess maybe a lack of fans in terms of smelling blood, as others suggested. Maybe it's all those factors. But I do think there's an element as well of the pragmatic approach becoming, because the Lyon game that obviously burnt him pretty hard. But I think he was building to that moment anyway, because City conceded so many goals last season on the counter-attack. And I think we got a little bit paranoid. So I do think there's an element where Guardiola has said, yeah, we've got to change this and fix it. So maybe that is the root cause of this, man. So I think that's probably a very, very good bet. And also I think it's just a sense of I guess it's chance, really. I do, in terms of like the ones that you trust at the moment are Gundogan and Rodri. Whereas I think if Bernardo Silva was in form, but he isn't in form ever at the moment. I think he was in form, and if Foden was probably more trustworthy for Guardiola in particular in midfield, I think he'd just play them. So we'd play more like the usual formation, but for whatever reason we're not. Why does he keep playing players that are out of form? It's always complex, these things. To us, what we perceive of out of form, I guess we have to separate bad form with bad performances. Because, I mean, I know it sounds really obvious, but form is where you're not doing things right, but it doesn't mean you're not trying. A bad performance is where Guardiola will see it as you're not trying or you're not doing what I asked for you. Now, Guardiola will accept a little bit of bad form as long as the players are trying. And I guess there's an element that even though people like Sterling, we go, he's not doing it week in, week out or whatever. I'm going to guess Sterling is still pretty much doing the job that Guardiola asks. His movement, his work rate, his defensive capabilities, his pressing and all that kind of stuff and where he needs to be. I'm sure that's all probably pretty much bang on. It's just the final bit is very frustrating. And even though we want him to be dropped all the time, I think there's an element where Guardiola will be trying to get the trust out of his players. He'll be trying to win them back over and essentially trying to play their way into form, because we all know that Sterling on form, people like him on form. If they score a goal, if he gets form, he scores 30 goals a season, or he's cutting in and putting it in the far corner from 20 yards, which he's shown plenty of times before. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's a sense of trust between the players, trying to win back that trust, also trying to make sure that players aren't punished for poor form, as opposed to actually not following instructions, if that makes. He wants to know that if you keep trying and working hard, I will trust you. Which there is an element to say that that's a good idea, because you've got to build that loyalty with your players. It's one of those things like, if you're struggling, as long as you try, and we're struggling together, if that makes sense. I know we may not agree with that as fans, but to be honest, the alternatives aren't much better. I mean, we have to admit it. We play Bernardo and he doesn't play much better. We play Foden and he's probably not been playing that great in the last few games, in my personal opinion as well. So I think he's playing players who are out of form because the alternatives aren't really necessarily always in form, unfortunately, mate. Next question is from Kieran. If this run of form continues and we fail to break top four this season, should Pep be let go? These things are always circumstantial, mate. I guess it depends. If the form continues and we don't, like, imagine we finish fifth, right? But the football had just gotten electric and Phil Foden had started banging them in. Ferran Torres started to play and the football got really good and all that kind of stuff. And there was obvious signs that City were heading in the right direction, but a bad run around winter unfortunately kind of sealed our fate. I think imagine that happened. We had a good run in the Champions League, didn't win it, but then we also won a domestic trophy or so, and we started banging goals in at the end of the season. Football fans and life are very fickle. If we saw some signs of development to show that actually, we're heading in the right direction, and given the fact that he signed a contract, he clearly isn't going to go anywhere, by the way, unless he gets us right near the bottom, which won't happen. But anyway, given if all those circumstances happened, everyone would be like, all right, well, we're going to sign a striker in the summer or whatever, we'll sign a midfielder, and we're starting to play good football again, and things looking good. So it's that. If we're miserable, I mean, if we're really miserable, we won't be anywhere near the top four full stop. I think we will improve, but I don't think, unless it's a disaster and we're talking like bottom 10 or below 10th, I can't see Manchester City getting rid of Guardiola, unfortunately. Because I say unfortunately for you ago, so whoever wants him out. To be honest, I don't think he'll go regardless. I think it'd have to be terrible, truly terrible. I don't think 5th or 6th will be enough to make him go, unless some shit happens, like he's arguing with the players and he wants to go. I don't think he'll go. But for me, it's not necessarily sack him if he doesn't make top four. It depends on the context, unfortunately. I know that's a vague answer, but it always depends on the context. Oh, and Jonas has gone in for 6 questions, man. Bloody hell. And it's all personal as well. How, when did you start to support Man City? I've supported Man City all my life. I chose Man City when I was about 3 or 4 years old, which was back in the late 80s it would have been, because I'm 35 years old, so it would have been like 89, 90, 91 or something like that. I remember loving the colour blue, seeing the word Manchester and wanting to be a Manchester City fan. My dad wasn't really a football fan until I became a football fan. He's now a Man City fan for like 20 odd years, because I am. But he initially wasn't. He was from Wales, so they're more into rugby in Wales. So I chose Man City. Simple as that when I was a kid. Loved the colour blue. Everyone in my school supported United. I'm a contrarian person and a stubborn person by nature, so I wanted to be a Man City fan. Don't regret it. If you could support any other team in Europe, which team would it be? Zero, man. Zero. I honestly cannot answer that question. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's different for other people, but I don't support any other team of any other sport in the world. I can't really relate to that. So Manchester City are the only one that means something. Manchester City aren't a team I support. Manchester City are a team I love. that I've been following all my life. It's not like I could just support any other team. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it at all. They are part of me, and they're part of me the way that my family are part of me. They're not everything to me, of course, because it's the most. But football is the most important, unimportant thing, if that makes sense. But they're not something I can just give up on, or they're not something I can never imagine. Never imagine watching another team and giving a shit about them in the way of Man City. So that's it. If City didn't exist, I wouldn't support any team. I just watch football every now and then. Which City match that you've been to is the most memorable? I wasn't at the 93-20, unfortunately. I had no money that year. I was in a band and I was skint. Giving up a season ticket, but that wasn't the case. For me, most memorable game, God, Vinny Kompany header in the derby in that same season. That was incredible. I remember that really well. I mean, they're all for different reasons. Like, I loved when we beat Barca 3-1 because I was there with one of my best mates watching it and we made a great video. It was a great day. Little things like watching City lift the Carabao Cup at Wembley with my dad is just, it's the shit you kind of want to you dream of, watching City win trophies at Wembley with your family. Things like, I guess, the Hamburg game was a famous one. I know City won that night, didn't go through, but that was a famous game at the Etihad. The first game at the main road is probably most memorable. City beat Swindon 2-1 back in 1994. I remember it clear as day. My dad surprising me with tickets, turning up randomly, unexpected. He dipped out around 12 o'clock. I was watching live and kicking some kids show on TV on a Saturday morning. It might have been a Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. Probably a Saturday. He turned up back at home at 12:30. He said, no, he went out at 12:30 and came back at 1:30 saying, right, I've got tickets for Man City. And I was like, what? And we just legged it. He went out, absolute surprise, and we went to watch Man City and we won 2-1. And David Rocastle and Kevin Horlock own goal, and I loved it. How long have you and Nicola been together? Well, it's not Nicole, it's I'll let you off. It's Nicola for one. We've been together for 7 years and we should have been married, and she can hear this actually. She's just over there. And she's absolutely she's coming over. Gosh, she is. Oh, bless her. She's wearing red, which is obviously a shocking behaviour. Hey. She's just dramatic. He took it off. She's wearing red, bless her. No, she's not wearing red. We should have been married. We should have been married in September. She's the best thing in the world. Everyone jokes that we're two halves of the same person. I've got some notes there. Let me just cover because she's looking over my laptop and it had Christmas presents stuff on.
I didn't see it. It's fine.
She's the best person in the world, and we should have been married and all that kind of shit. And she's all right for someone from Rochdale. 7 years. 7 years in February.
Yeah, it's not quite 7 years.
Yeah, so this is it. She's here. What's my favourite food while you're here?
It's the bagels right now.
Shit.
A lot of stuff
right.
Bagels.
Are you ready? Are you ready for cooking time with Stephen?
He loves this.
For this recipe, you'll need one bagel. You'll need a bag of grated cheese, tomato puree, especially, what's that salt you have?
Salt. Smoked salt.
Smoked salt, garlic puree, pepper.
Fine.
Normal salt's fine. Pepper, one slice of bacon, a green pepper,
that's it, isn't it?
And an oven. Something to make things hot with.
Not a microwave.
No, I don't mention the Jello Wilson.
Yeah.
So, you've kind of, basically, I'll be honest with you, this is the second take because the camera went flat. So Nicola's made a joke references to what happened 5 minutes ago.
No, it's a common meme.
Microwaving?
Yeah, you said genuinely.
Previously though, I mentioned Nigel Lawson. Anyway, so what you want to do, right? You want to cut your bagel in half, piece of bagels. Oh, listen, this is life. So cut the bagel in half, right? Then you want to get a bit of tomato puree. Put a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt in. Maybe a little bit of garlic puree. Mix that shit together. Now put a nice healthy dollop over your two halves of your bagel cut in half, so you've got a nice little tomato puree base. During this, by the way, you want to be grilling a little bit of bacon. When that bad boy's done, you want to chop it up into tiny little pieces. Before you get onto the bacon, you need to chop up some peppers. Chop up a green pepper so you've got little chunks of pepper. So you've got basically, right, you've got, what are you doing? Oh yeah, wait, this is going to be interesting, the addition at the end. A free ad for one of my friends. But you've got basically your tomato puree in the base. Then you want to put a little bit of cheese on and put the green peppers in around the corner. Bang that bad boy under the grill for a little bit. After, by the way, after you've toasted the bagels a tiny bit, because otherwise they don't crunch. You need to toast them for about 40 seconds in the toaster so they get a little bit crunch to them. So when they've got a little bit of toast, put the tomato puree on, a little bit of sprinkled cheese on, put them in the grill. The peppers on, then bring them back out after when they start to melt a little bit of cheese. Put your little bits of your pre-cooked bacon on, put a little bit more cheese on, back under the grill. Once it's done, you pull out and you put a dollop of this bad boy. One of my mates used to be on Blue Horizon with me, a guy called Elliot. Let me get that in focus for you. Elliot Eastwick, he used to be on Blue Horizon with me. He made his own sauce. Elliot's getting a shout out. It's Elliot Eastwick's world famous hot sauce. Put a couple of dobs of that on it. I tell you, that shit will get you going. Little smiley face. Get out of the way now. That'll get you going. Other than that, I guess I just like a sweet tooth. I like food. I don't really know. Everyone loves pizza, don't they? You know, best sweets are squashes. Bloody love squashes.
Stephen used to not rate food that much.
No, I liked food, but I was
I made him a foodie.
I was a typical boy who just likes pizza, chips, and burgers. You know.
So he'll eat anything, and he likes a lot of things. To be honest, so it's hard to define what he likes.
Hard to define, yeah. And in terms of favourite drink, well, this is the final question. Go on, fucking hell. You gotta let me talk about.
Wait, no.
You have to talk about food.
You gotta talk about our favourite restaurant.
Oh shit! Our favourite restaurant and the caterers of our wedding are Levanta or Barachura. It's two sister restaurants next to each other. Levanta in Ramsbottom, and they do incredible Spanish tapas. It's literally, the chef probably just kissed the food. It's that nice, but not during COVID era because that would be dangerous. But in general, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's the best restaurant in the world. I fucking love it. It's gorgeously seasoned Spanish tapas kind of food. Favorite drink is probably just rum. I'm a big rum boy.
Although you've been getting back into whiskey, I don't really drink whiskey, but you.
No, whiskey's great.
Went to Scotland, didn't we?
We went to Scotland once. We got massively into whiskey, and it was great. And also, I don't know, and I just love a smoothie. I love a good smoothie.
He loves a good smoothie.
I love a good smoothie. That's what I'm always saying. That's Stephen.
It's because he is a smoothie.
Wow. Must have done something right to bull you, isn't it? And also, what else? Should we do a Christmas Day Q&A, by the way? A live one?
Yeah.
We will do.
Before, haven't we?
We have. What else do I like drinks-wise?
You like a hot toddy? Well, that's
the hot toddy is whiskey.
Like...
This is a brew or good coffee, you know.
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. Everyone. I just like drinks, you know. I'm not a beer. One thing I don't like, I still drink beer.
You like Rioja?
Oh, I love sangria.
Yeah.
I'm not really a beer person. Anyway, that's the end of this Q&A. Thank you so much for tuning in. Patreon.com/Esteemed Company. Thank you to all the people who help support this channel. As I said a million times, this is literally my life source, you know, so you're all absolute heroes. And the second tier YouTube members as well. If you want to get involved, patreon.com/Esteemed Company. I just throwing a bloody turtle at me. She's throwing a little Mario turtle at me. Or youtube.com/Esteemed Company /join. Which I learned the other day, which is actually a new URL that works. For now, though, love you all in a bit. I love you all, and I'll see you in a bit.
Is that a promise?
Maybe it is if you play your cards right. And I'll see you all in a bit because the preview will be coming up. Bye-bye.